4K is an imperial brown ale, and it is made with agave. The word that they use for the agave juice is called mosto, M-O-S-T-O. And I partnered with a gentleman named Felipe Soto Maris, and he is the owner of El Duende de Don Felipe Tequila Company out of Jalisco, Mexico. So he actually provides the mosto to me. It's shipped up from Jalisco. Always have a little bit of trouble getting it through the border, and it's really just a fermentable that's added at the end of the boil. But it causes or creates a very special earthy taste and aroma to the beer, and the longer the beer ages, the more it takes on of the agave or the mosto.
Cool. And so where did the original idea to use agave come from? Was that...
Felipe came in here and introduced himself to us when we were first opening, and I think he was pursuing other large breweries to try to get them to brew with agave, and we were the first to bite. We partnered with him, and it's been a great relationship. It's a really unique beer. We're the only ones doing it, and we also do it with a saison, which Cameron will talk about later.
Okay, great. And this is a year-round beer?
This beer is seasonal. It's done twice a year. It's done during the holidays, and it's done in the fall. The beer itself smells like a pretty robust ale, nut brown, and then it has a sweetness to it. It's a full-bodied beer and very refreshing. Being at 8%, it's a real sneaky beer because you can't really tell how strong it is when you drink it. So.
Okay. So 8% ABV, right?
Yep, correct.
And what about the hops? What kind of hop profile?
The hops are Pearl and Hallertauer, so they're just in the background. They're not meant to get in the way of anything else that's up front in the beer. We really want the beer to stand on its own and let the agave show through, which it really does.
Okay, so not a super hoppy beer, mostly.
Yeah, just really enjoyable. I would say that it's a typical nut brown ale, only it's an imperial, being higher alcohol.
Okay.
It's not really added by the fermentable of the mosto. We build the recipe to have it in the malt versus having it in the addition of sugar at the end.
Awesome, excellent.
Primordial is a double IPA, and I would say that if it was created to replicate anything, it would probably be something that Vinny from Russian River did, something along the lines of a Pliny the Elder. Although I think this beer is balanced, more on the less hoppy side. Although it is over 100 IBUs, it affords the ability for the person that's drinking it to taste sweetness, then malt, and then bitter on the back of the tongue. And I don't think you would realize that it's well over 100 IBUs.
Huh, okay. And so what do we get on the nose, like when you, in terms of aroma profiles and stuff, the hops and...
Yeah, this beer has 4 different hops, and they're all going to be onto the citrus or piney side. It's copiously dry hopped in the bright tank with Simcoe and Amarillo.
Great. And what about malts?
The malts for this beer are pretty simple, as they should be for any IPA. They're basically 3 malts. There's a pale base malt, and there are 2 crystal malts, and that's it.
Okay, great. And just the other specifications, the ABV is what?
The ABV is 9%. Well, the smell really is very resiny pine and citrus, and then of course the taste is, as I said earlier, it's really sweet on the tip of the tongue, it's malty on the middle, and it's very bitter on the back. But I think the beer is very well balanced, and probably in a category of a good West Coast IPA. And this beer is probably our flagship beer.
Isn't this one relatively new, though? You didn't have this 6 or 8 months ago, or no?
This beer is seasonal also. It just happens to be it's done twice a year also, and it's the season for it now.
All right, that's a good season.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Cool, so this is the Los Four Amigos Agave Saison, and as Dan mentioned before, this is one of the beers that we did with agave with El Duende. So he provides the mosto, which is the must from the agave plant. And this isn't your standard, Costco agave syrup. This stuff is imported. It's in its rawest form, and it adds a really earthy, complex character to the beer. Like Dan said, at the risk of being redundant, the must goes in at the end of the boil. It ferments out with the beer, but it adds its own character. This beer is about 5.7. We use American hops, actually, and that really gives it a nice balance between the Belgian yeast and the American hops. They work really well together. You got the colors, a nice golden, and tastes amazing.
Yeah, I definitely get the sort of the Belgian yeastiness on the nose and some of that earthiness from the agave, for sure. Not how heavily hopped is it?
Not much. Not very.
Not much.
You really, with Belgians, even in the Belgian IPA category, there's a school of thought that none of the hops should interfere with the character of the yeast, because Belgian yeast tends to be really phenolic, especially when fermented at warmer temperatures. So you really don't want to interrupt that process with a lot of hops.
Anything notable about the malts that you use on this one?
This is a pretty simple malt bill. I'm talking, some two-row pills, some rolled oats for body, wheat, obviously flaked wheat, and a little bit of biscuit.
And I mean, is there anything that you do differently with the agave syrup in making this beer as opposed to making the Porcano? Does it go in at a different part, or does it impart a different?
The recipe is obviously a lot different, but process-wise, it's the same thing.
And you get a different, obviously you get something of different flavor component, you get a different addition from the agave with this recipe than you do in the Porcano, right?
Yeah, the Porcano, I think the agave comes through more because there's more residual sweetness.
Yeah.
With the Saison as a style, it's supposed to be so dry, bone dry, that a lot of the agave ferments out. And there's I would say, there's less agave character in the Saison. It's still there, but in the brown you can really tell, especially, if you let it finish a little high and leave some of the sugar in there. It helps a lot.
Great. It's delicious. And thanks for tasting it with us.
Thanks.
All right.